No, you're wrong. That's not it. You don't understand.
Reminds me of lyrics from a song I heard once. I shift my gaze back to the man standing before me, crying and apologizing. It's embarrassing that this sorry man is my husband. Well, that ends today. It's fine. It's fine. You look well. We'll get through this. My name is Cammie. I'm a 27-year-old office worker. I've been friends with my colleagues, Patrick and Allison, since we started working at the same company. We often hung out privately, but when Allison got a boyfriend, it was usually just Patrick and me. I always saw Patrick as just a good male friend. He saw things differently, though, and took me by surprise when he confessed his feelings for me. That confession made me start seeing him as more than a friend.
Will you go out with me on a trial basis?
Impulsive Patrick caught me off guard, and we started dating. Allison teased us, saying, "Really? Now?" But Patrick turned out to be a very serious guy who treasured me. Over time, I came to feel the same way about him. A few months into our relationship, Allison announced she was marrying her longtime boyfriend and graciously asked me to give a wedding speech. "Cammie, you're next." Sure enough, the following year, Patrick and I decided to get married. Of course, I asked Allison to give a speech. Work was going well, and I was thrilled at the thought of spending the rest of my life with the man I love. I even thought I was the happiest person in the world. How naive I was. A few months after marrying Patrick, I found out I was pregnant.
"Hello, can you hear me?"
Patrick would say as he touched my belly. "I don't think the baby can hear you yet." That happy conversation lasted only the first 2 weeks. Ugh, I feel sick. Is this morning sickness? Soon after, I was struck with intense nausea. Worse, I experienced both vomiting and eating types of morning sickness. I felt sick, so I ate. Then I felt sick because I ate, in a never-ending cycle. The terrifying part about morning sickness is that there's no end in sight. My phone search history was flooded with questions like, when does morning sickness end? Comfortable positions for morning sickness. Will morning sickness last until delivery? In moments like these, I'd reassure myself daily, saying, "This too is proof the baby is growing. It'll end someday. It'll end." Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, in walks Patrick, declaring,
"I'm home. Hey, Cammie, down with morning sickness again?"
Hardly the words you'd expect from a man whose wife is carrying his child. No, it's not again. I've been dealing with morning sickness constantly. Despite the effort it took to speak, Patrick blurted out,
"All right, whatever. What's for dinner?"
I finally lost it. Don't you see? I've had morning sickness all day. Making dinner was out of the question. I raised my voice. Don't irritate a pregnant woman this much.
Women change after marriage, they say, and it's true. You've been irritable lately, Cammie. All we've had are ready-made meals and takeout. You used to take care of yourself.
He said that with a look of disdain. To add insult to injury,
look at Allison's social media. She cooks all these elaborate dishes every day. I'm so jealous.
What? Don't compare a housewife with no kids to a full-time pregnant woman with morning sickness. I was too drained to argue, muttering, "Whatever, I'm going to bed," as tears flowed uncontrollably. Patrick had become rather careless in how he treated me since we got married. Once you've got it, you don't need to work for it anymore, they say. Patrick was a prime example. Thoughts of divorce had crossed my mind, weighed down by financial worries, and the hope that maybe Patrick would change when our child arrived. My mental state was in shambles. Divorce takes a toll, and for someone pregnant, it's particularly harsh. Despite my struggles, our baby was growing healthily inside of me. That was the only thing keeping me going. We had a huge fight once, and I told him, "I'm going back to my parents' house." The reason? He said I was careless with housework. Think about it. Patrick and I leave and return home at the same time. On top of that, I'm pregnant. Yet Patrick says,
"It's great coming home and having dinner ready."
This infuriated me, leading to an argument. Most household chores fall on me anyway. Patrick's contribution is taking out the trash, I've gathered. I've told him to pitch in more, but he responded,
"Nah, I'm not good with that stuff."
"Then go back to your parents' house." Angry and at a loss for words, Patrick picked up his phone and started talking to someone. After a while, he handed me his phone with a smug look on his face.
"Here, take it. It's for you."
I really didn't want to talk to the person on the other end, but she insisted. I grabbed the phone and was immediately shouted at. "What do you mean, kicking my son out of the house?" The caller was Patrick's mom, my mother-in-law, Stella. I can't stand her. Actually, I hate her. Most people would be shocked if they got yelled at like this, but not me. I told Patrick to leave because he said I couldn't go back to my own family's house. What's wrong with that? Why should Patrick be the one to leave? Fed up, I retorted. Is there any reason besides me not wanting to be with him? And why are parents getting involved in an adult fight anyway? Then I hung up on her. It's been like this since we got married. I try to keep the peace during family events, but Stella plays the victim, saying things like, "My son's wife is so rude. I'm always the one getting hurt." As a result, I've been labeled the strict wife behind my back. Stella and I probably clash because we're too similar. We both say what we're thinking. Raised the youngest of all brothers, I turned out to be a strong-minded woman. And of course, Stella dislikes me for it, calling me unladylike and cheeky. I don't care what she thinks, but talking to her drains me, which is tough on my pregnant body. I seem to have drawn the short straw when it comes to both my husband and mother-in-law. I've had enough, I thought. Patrick knows how I am, so whenever there's trouble, he sends Stella to deal with me. Like children fighting, I thought to myself. Then one day, my morning sickness finally stopped. I don't feel sick anymore, thank God. But then, foolish Patrick said,
"Now, you can take care of the house."
Experience is a cruel teacher, and I'd learned not to expect anything from him. The upside, I was less annoyed. I hadn't yet realized that my clueless husband would do something absurd after someone had said, "Criticism is the best form of flattery." As I got further along in my pregnancy, my belly grew larger, and I started experiencing leg cramps and frequent bathroom trips. Yet every kick I felt filled me with joy. Though I had some bouts of morning sickness in my third trimester, they were mild compared to the first half. With the support of my colleagues, I managed to work until I went on maternity leave. I wasn't lucky with my in-laws, but I'm truly grateful to everyone at work. "We'll definitely come see you once the baby is born and things settle down. Can't wait to hold little Cammy," my colleague said, which made me happy. I didn't trust Patrick and had no intention of relying on my in-laws, so I decided to give birth at my parents' house, a 2-hour drive away. My parents, eager for their first grandchild, couldn't wait for the arrival. My parents have a strong relationship. My dad, being strict, was tough on us siblings, but also showered us with praise when deserved. Even after years of marriage, he adored my mom. When she stumbled slightly on a step, he'd ask,
"Are you okay? Any injuries?"
That's probably what you'd call a devoted husband. Even if Mom would say, "Oh, stop it, you're embarrassing me." She actually cherished it.
"So, Patrick, we'll be looking after Cammy for a while. Make sure you step up after."
My dad said as he came to pick me up, since the day was drawing near for the birth.
"Of course, you can count on me for anything at home. Thank you for worrying about me too,"
Patrick responded. My dad looked puzzled. I felt embarrassed. What does he mean? You can count on me for anything at home. Who cares about your well-being? You should be concerned about your wife and the child that's about to be born. I felt like my face was on fire from shame. If Patrick had one redeeming quality, it would be his ability to get along with anyone. My stern-faced dad is often misunderstood, but Patrick won him over with his unyielding cheerfulness the first time they met. I was glad that he got along well with my family. On the way to my parents' house, Dad hesitated.
Patrick is. Never mind.
Dad, I know what you wanted to say. Patrick is an idiot, right? Thinking of spending some time away from Patrick, the source of my worries, I felt I could go into labor with peace of mind. As it turned out, our baby was breech, as revealed in the latest checkup. We tried various maneuvers to turn the baby, but it didn't work. A cesarean section was inevitable. They're going to cut me open, I said. I had been lucky to live a healthy life thus far. While a C-section is still childbirth, it's also surgery. When I let out a sigh of fear, Mom said, "You're about to be a mother, you know. And Cammie, you were breech too, and delivered via C-section." I was scared, but the moment you were born and cried, all the fear disappeared. She patted my shoulder reassuringly. A mother's love knows no bounds. In the end, my baby remained breech, so I gave birth to a healthy girl via C-section. I finally get to meet you. All the hardships I'd experienced during pregnancy hit me all at once, and I burst into tears. My parents, who had been waiting, cheered.
You did great.
Well done. They looked at the baby and couldn't stop saying how cute she was. My dad was even more emotional than me. By the way, Patrick wasn't there. I told him not to come. It may sound like I'm the bad guy, but as soon as a C-section was scheduled, I did inform Patrick.
Do I really need to be there right now? Axel and the others are here too, you know.
He said something outrageous. I was so shocked, I told him not to come and hung up. I informed the hospital that my husband might not come, and true to form, Patrick didn't show up. After I was discharged, I went back to my parents' house, where they helped me focus on childcare. They even took care of the birth registration. And Patrick? Not a single message since the baby was born. Stella did call to say, "Bring the baby over soon." "I'll come if I can," I said, and hung up. About 2 weeks after giving birth, the doorbell rang late at night. "Who could that be?" said Mom, and after a chat with the visitor, they both came into the living room.
Cammie, long time no see. Wow, so this is my kid. She's so tiny.
Patrick had come unannounced after work. It was 9 p.m. Angie, who had just fallen asleep, woke up due to Patrick's loud voice. Patrick cheerfully said to me, who was calming down the baby,
"Wow, you need to keep up, Cammie."
My mom stood behind him, glaring. "What are you doing here at this hour without notice? Don't you think it's rude?" And to that, Patrick replied,
"Mommy's as scary as ever,"
without even trying to soothe the crying Angie. This guy, I wanted to kick him out right then. But then Patrick said something even more outrageous.
"Cammie, let's go home."
What? I was embarrassed to hear the unexpected words, but my voice came out in a stupid voice.
"I thought I'd check and see how you were doing, and you look fine. Let's go."
When I was too dumbfounded to respond, he said,
"I mean, the house is a mess. I'm not good at cleaning up, so could you take care of it, please?"
Clasping his hands in front of me as if praying. From behind me, a low voice said,
"Hey. Oh, sorry for intruding, Axel. I came to pick up Cammie and Angie. Thanks for looking after them."
Patrick was grinning, the only one in the room doing so. Doesn't he get it?
They say a mother's love knows no bounds, but you're up and about after a C-section. Are you a Japanese samurai or what? Just kidding, haha.
Man, I wish he'd stop talking already. Just as I thought that, looking at Dad's face, He finally seemed to realize he'd crossed the line.
Come on. Why the mean look? Axel and I are buddies, right?
He tries to say.
You think you can treat my daughter, who I brought into this world, like this? Stop making a fool out of her. Get out now.
Dad's words echoed with authority. Dad had laid down the law. After his words, I turned to Patrick and said, Patrick, I'm divorcing you. They say the resentment of pregnancy and childbirth lasts a lifetime, but you've been a problem long before that. I had decided to divorce him once the baby was born. I even considered doing it before the birth. But a small part of me believed that seeing the baby would bring back the Patrick I once knew. In the end, Patrick only thinks about himself. I should have left him sooner. As long as you pay up, that's all I care about. Staring down Patrick, I said this. He retorted,
I'll never agree to a divorce. I'm reporting this to Mom.
Then he stormed off. He's such a child, to the very end. As Patrick was leaving, Mom was yelling at him to go home faster. A few days later, I called Patrick.
Hello, Cammy? I said those things, but I don't want to break up.
Patrick tried to sound humble, but of course I was unmoved. In the background, I heard something move. What's that noise? Is someone there? At my words, Patrick's voice quivered.
Sorry. Actually, I'm dog-sitting for a friend. You know, I love dogs.
Sounds like a big dog. Almost sounds like it can talk. Let me guess the name. Allison? When I said this, Patrick was clearly shaken. The baby monitor you bought, even though I always said I didn't need it, being tech-averse as I am, surely came in handy. As I said this, Patrick scrambled to turn off the monitor, but it was too late. Wow, this thing is easy to operate. Even has a recording function. Just great. I said this with a chuckle. The room, tidied up for giving birth at my parents' house, now looked like a garbage dump. Captured several times on camera were the two of them, cuddling on the dirty sofa like a newly dating couple. Who would have thought you could feel romantic in such a messy room? Both of them must have the intelligence of monkeys. Actually, that's insulting to monkeys. I suspected he was having an affair, but I never thought it would be with Allison. No wonder he's always going on about Allison. Just thinking that the two of them have been deceiving me this whole time makes my blood boil. Patrick suddenly went silent. Then Allison switched on the line, crying. Hello, Cammy? It's me, Allison. Sorry, there's nothing between Patrick and me. We were just talking about you, that's all. What a lie. Fine, Allison. Keep your lies to social media. That shut her up. Allison, now a housewife, posts on social media almost daily. Pictures of fancy meals that were clearly takeout from expensive restaurants. Anyone could see right through it. Colleagues felt sorry seeing her posts, but I considered her a friend, so I never joined in. I thought you were a dear friend, Allison. Hearing my sad tone, she replied, I'm sorry. It was just a fling with Patrick. I still want to be friends with you, Cammy. Yeah, oops. I accidentally sent a video of you two to Zeph because I'm not tech savvy. I said it cheerfully and hung up. As if I would forgive them. May they both go to hell. I had work connections with Allison's husband, Zeph, so I knew how to reach him. He contacted me right away, grateful for the evidence, and said they'd been suspecting an affair too.
We will definitely take action,
he assured. Allison, despite her glamorous appearance, was disastrous at housework. Zeph suggested she work for a change of pace, to which she responded, That's not really for me. I chuckled at the irony. Now that I think of it, Allison's workspace was always messy. No wonder she's okay with a room like that. Then I immediately reached out to a certain individual. The person on the other end of the line was furious. Eventually, I was summoned to my in-laws' house, My parents offered to come along, but I asked them to look after my daughter and went alone. I arrived and rang the doorbell. Stella opened the door with a stern look. "Come in," she said. Inside, I saw my usually quiet father-in-law, Lloyd, and Patrick, who had a triumphant expression for some reason. Looks like Stella is going to scold me again, I thought. What an idiot. Stella broke the silence. "Patrick, you told me the reason for the divorce was that Cammy had changed her mind. Is it true that you had an affair?" Patrick gave me a look as if I'd spilled the beans.
"Well, you see, it was just a fling. It's over now."
He spoke, eyes down, in a subdued voice. Who could have guessed it would turn out like this? Stella looked visibly annoyed. The next second, "You idiotic son!" Stella slapped Patrick hard across the face. For a moment, he looked stunned, hand on his cheek, staring at Stella. "I hate cheating men more than anything in the world." Seems like Patrick found Stella's unprecedented anger scary. He turned to Lloyd for help, who coldly said,
"Don't look at me. You brought this on yourself. Suffer the consequences."
Lloyd himself was shaking at the sight of Stella's fury. The person I contacted was Stella. I knew she had a severe disdain for infidelity. During a death anniversary at our parents-in-law's home, the subject of cheating came up among family members. Only Stella reacted with an extraordinary level of anger. Everyone thought, she must have been cheated on before. "Patrick, ever since I got pregnant, you've only cared about yourself. Must have been busy cheating, I guess." Stella slapped Patrick again upon hearing those words. Realizing he was cornered, Patrick sobbed and said,
"No, that's not it. I swear it's not."
But of course, I had no intention of forgiving him. Let him suffer. When the topic of alimony and child support came up, he pleaded.
"I have no money, Cammy. Please forgive me."
I looked at him and said, "It's all right. You look well. You'll figure it out." I threw back the same insensitive words he had said to me 2 weeks after childbirth, telling me to come home and clean the dirty house. Upon hearing this, Patrick burst into tears again. After that, I reported Patrick's actions to his company. They promised appropriate action, but not wanting him to lose his job and default on child support, I had him transferred to a notoriously tough labor-intensive subsidiary. His parents covered the compensation. Back at his parents' house, Patrick faced harsh treatment, especially from Stella, who had always been soft on him. It served him right. As for Allison, his affair partner, she got a divorce as well. Her reason for cheating with Patrick was resentment over my constant praise at work. Made no sense. After this, Allison was disowned by her family. "I can't pay. I have no money," she shamelessly said when asked about compensation. Like that was an option. She's now working desperately to continue paying me and Zeph. My life's less glamorous now, but I couldn't care less about a friend like her. As for me, thanks to my parents' support, my daughter Angie is growing up fine. My childcare leave is about to end, and my parents decided to move closer to my workplace. We just want to be closer to Angie. But I know it's because they're worried about me. And honestly, I couldn't be more grateful. Things have been tough, but I'm committed to raising my daughter well as a single mother.